We tried Scrum and it completely failed. In my 20 years in the Scrum environment, I have heard that countless times. Teams blame the framework when project and products go sideways, timelines slip, and frustration mounts. But here's the truth, nobody's telling you. In most cases, it wasn't Scrum that failed, it was the implementation. Stick around to learn the exact mindset shift that turns those headaches into your biggest project wins. I know you are busy, so we will cut straight to the 5 misunderstandings derailing your Scrum. For the next lunchtime, reserve you a spot of 10 minutes and watch the only Scrum video you will ever need. Trust me, it's worth. Today, I'm breaking down the most common misconceptions about Scrum that lead teams to hate a framework that, when properly understood, could actually solve their biggest challenges. By the end, you will see why a few simple mindset tweaks can boost your team's adaptiveness, speed, and morale. The 5 most common Scrum misunderstandings. Let's examine now what's really happening when teams struggle with Scrum. Picture this. You join a new team and they tell you they have tried Scrum before. Their faces tell the whole story before they even speak. They describe endless meetings that drag on forever, rigid rules that make no sense for their work, and a Scrum Master who just assigns tasks like any other manager would. These frustrations are completely valid, but they stem from misunderstandings of Scrum as a framework, not the process itself. At its core, Scrum is built on transparency, inspection, and adaptation. So let's see how misapplication warps that. The first major misunderstanding treats Scrum as a rigid process with strict rules that must be followed exactly. Think of it like this. Imagine you are following a receipt that you think requires exact measurements and precise timing, when it's actually more like guidelines for creating something delicious. The Scrum Guide itself calls these practices pillars, not commandments. Your daily Scrum is a chance for quick synchronization, not a strict 15-minute status ritual at 9 a.m. sharp. You adjust these elements based on what works best for your team and your project. The second misunderstanding hits close to home for most people. The idea that Scrum ceremonies are just time-wasting meetings. Each ceremony drives a core purpose. Daily Scrums surface blockers. Sprint reviews gather feedback. Retrospectives fuel continuous improvement. Your daily stand-up isn't meant to be a status report to your manager. It's for synchronization, for identifying obstacles that might slow your team down. Your sprint review isn't just a demo session. It's a chance to gather feedback and adapt your approach based on what you learn. Misunderstanding number 3 involves the Scrum Master role itself. The Scrum Master is a servant leader who removes impediments and coaches a team, not a manager who assigns tasks or reports status. They facilitate the Scrum process and help your team learn to organize itself. When your Scrum Master gets stuck doing administrative tasks, they can't focus on what really matters, empowering your team to deliver better results. The fourth misunderstanding comes up especially with smaller projects. Teams assume Scrum adds unnecessary complexity to simple work that could be done more directly. You can scale the framework appropriately based on your project requirements. A small project with 3 developers doesn't need the same level of ceremony as a large enterprise initiative. On a 3-person project, your retrospective might be 15 minutes instead of an hour, but the focus on feedback stays the same. The framework adapts to serve your needs, not the other way around. The final misunderstanding might be the most damaging. When projects fail while using Scrum, teams automatically blame the framework itself. The point to missed deadlines, scope creep, or team conflicts as proof that Scrum doesn't work. Research shows that teams that skip retrospectives lose crucial chances to adapt. So, failures are usually due to skipping Scrum feedback loops, not the framework itself. Teams skip retrospectives and miss chances to improve. They ignore the product owner role and let requirements chaos take over. They turn stand-ups into status meetings and wonder why communication doesn't improve. These misunderstandings create poor implementations that give Scrum a bad reputation. But the real power comes from understanding that Scrum is built on empirism, the idea that knowledge comes from experience and making decisions based on what you observe. Teams that understand the principles behind Scrum practices can adapt them effectively while keeping the core values intact. They focus on transparency so everyone knows what's happening. They inspect their work regularly to catch problems early. They adapt their approach based on what they learn along the way. The difference between success and failure often comes down to whether teams grasp these fundamental principles or just go through the motions. Conclusion. Now let's bring this together with what actually works. When you start seeing Scrum as a framework built on empirism rather than a rigid process, everything changes about how you implement it. You focus on learning from experience instead of following rules blindly. Your team starts making decisions based on real observations rather than assumptions. The three empirical pillars, transparency, inspection, and adaptation, guide every decision you make. Next time someone claims Scrum doesn't work, ask if they skipped transparency, inspection, or adaptation first. Did they embrace openness in their work? Did they inspect their progress regularly? Did they adapt when things weren't working? Proper Scrum adaptations lead to faster delivery through regular sprints, improved team morale through empowerment, and higher product quality via continuous feedback. If you've seen these misunderstandings in your team, comment below with which one hit home and subscribe for more concise, expert-driven Agile insights.